Imagine you are standing at the edge of a quiet lake at night. The moonlight glimmers on the surface, and the stars above are scattered like spilled diamonds across the dark canvas of the sky. You breathe in the stillness, and for a moment you feel that you are part of something larger than yourself, something infinite, mysterious, and unreachable. Welcome, wanderer of thought, seeker of hidden truths. This is the wandering neuron, where curiosity is not just a habit, but a way of being. Tonight, we embark on a journey into realms unseen, dimensions beyond perception, and a question that whispers in the dark. What if there are worlds folded within our own, invisible, yet ever-present? The 11th dimension. It sounds like something out of science fiction, doesn't it? But it is a real concept, born from the most ambitious theories in modern physics, and it just might hold the key to understanding the ultimate fabric of reality, and perhaps, just perhaps, you already exist within it, without ever realizing. Section 2. The first hook. Why more than 4 dimensions? Let's begin with a question that seems almost childlike in its simplicity. Why stop at 3? We know the 3 dimensions of space, length, width, and height, and the dimension of time. These 4 together form the stage upon which everything in our universe plays out. But for decades, physicists have asked, could there be more? Einstein showed us that space and time are not separate, but woven together into a grand tapestry, space-time. Later, quantum physics shattered our intuition further, revealing a universe governed by uncertainty, entanglement, and probabilities. Yet, for all their beauty, relativity and quantum mechanics do not get along. They are 2 towering mountains of thought, but there is no bridge connecting their peaks. And here lies the lure of higher dimensions. String theory, a bold attempt at unifying the forces of nature, whispered that our universe may not be limited to just 4 dimensions. The math began to demand more, 6, 7, 10. Until finally, in the mid-1990s, a new framework emerged, M-theory, and at its heart, 11 dimensions. 11, not as a poetic metaphor, but as a precise mathematical necessity. But if there really are 11 dimensions, why don't we see them? Where are they hiding? Imagine walking through a grand mansion with countless rooms, corridors, and stairways, yet you live your entire life in just one small chamber, believing that this room is the whole of existence. You cannot see the doors that lead elsewhere, and you never suspect they are there. According to physicists, the extra dimensions are real, but they are curled up so tightly, smaller than the smallest atom, compactified into intricate shapes beyond imagination, that our senses cannot perceive them. Like secret rooms folded into the very walls of our reality, they are everywhere, yet hidden. To us, the universe looks 3-dimensional, like a vast plane, but in truth, it may be a multi-dimensional cathedral, its spires and archways invisible to our eyes. And if that is true, then you already inhabit the 11th dimension, even if you do not know it. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine that the universe is not made of particles, not little billiard balls of matter colliding in space, but of music. Invisible strings vibrating at the tiniest scales, so small that even our most powerful microscopes cannot glimpse them. This is the essence of string theory. Instead of point-like particles, reality's building blocks are tiny one-dimensional strings. Like violin strings, they vibrate at different frequencies, and each vibration gives rise to a different particle. One vibration becomes an electron, another becomes a photon, another a quark. All the diversity of matter and energy in the cosmos may be nothing more than the songs of these minuscule strings. But music needs space to be played. A violin needs its hollow body to resonate. A piano string needs air to vibrate through. And in the case of the universe, strings require more than just the familiar 3 dimensions of space and time. The equations of string theory whisper insistently, there must be extra dimensions. Without them, the song of the universe would fall apart. So in a strange twist, physics tells us that existence itself demands more dimensions than we can see. We live inside a cosmic orchestra, but most of its instruments play behind a curtain. And that curtain, it may be woven from the 11th dimension itself. But how do we imagine what we cannot see? How do we picture an 11th dimension when even a fourth spatial dimension feels impossible? Let's step into a story, one that mathematicians have long used to stretch the mind. Imagine a world called Flatland. In this world, everything exists in just two dimensions, length and width. The creatures of Flatland are like paper cutouts, sliding across their flat surfaces. They know nothing of height. Now imagine you, a three-dimensional being, lowering your finger into Flatland. The Flatlanders see only a circle appearing in their world, growing and shrinking as you move your finger through. They cannot conceive of the full shape of your finger. To them, you are a mystery, a being that exists, yet cannot be fully grasped. In the same way, we are the Flatlanders of three-dimensional space. If a being from the 11th dimension were to pass through our universe, we would see only fleeting shadows, fragments of its presence. We would never grasp its true form. And here lies the haunting thought. Perhaps we already live surrounded by such dimensions, immersed in them as a fish is in water. Yet, like the Flatlanders, we cannot recognize them. What does it mean, then, to exist without knowing? Could we not be nothing more than projections of something greater, just as a shadow is the projection of a higher shape? Think of a cathedral. From the outside, it is stone and symmetry. But step inside, and you are greeted with vaulted ceilings, arches that rise like trees of stone, and stained glass windows filtering light into colors you never saw outside. Our universe, too, may have such hidden architecture. Physicists call it compactification, the idea that the extra dimensions are curled up into intricate geometric shapes, unimaginably small, yet fundamental to reality's structure. One famous example is the Calabi-Yau manifold, a mathematical jewel with folds and twists so complex that even computers struggle to map them. These shapes might be the invisible scaffolding of the cosmos, dictating the properties of particles, the laws of physics, and perhaps even the possibility of life itself. Here is the astonishing part. The way these extra dimensions are curled could determine everything. Why the electron has the mass it does, why the speed of light is constant, why stars burn the way they do. Every law you take for granted may be the echo of an unseen geometry carved in the 11th dimension. And yet, we walk through our lives oblivious, eating breakfast, sending messages, worrying about tomorrow, all the while suspended within a cathedral we cannot see. So the question lingers. If we cannot perceive these hidden halls of reality, are we truly experiencing the universe, or only its shadow? Imagine our universe as a vast cosmic harp. Each string, vibrating at a frequency too fine for the human ear, gives rise to matter, energy, and even the laws of nature themselves. This is not just poetic imagery, it is the essence of string theory, a framework physicists propose to unify all the fundamental forces. In string theory, what we call particles are not indivisible dots, but tiny oscillating strings of energy. Just as a violin string can produce multiple notes depending on how it vibrates, these cosmic strings create different fundamental particles. The photon, the electron, the quark, all are merely different notes on the same universal instrument. But here lies the mystery. For the mathematics of string theory to work, the universe cannot exist in just 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time. It demands extra dimensions, curled up beyond our perception. Some versions require 10 dimensions, while M theory, the most ambitious of them all, whispers of 11 dimensions, the final stage of unification. In this 11th dimension, our universe might not be alone. We may be a floating membrane, or brain, in a vast ocean of higher dimensional space. Other brains could drift nearby, carrying entire universes with their own laws of physics.
The collision of such brains, some theorists suggest, might even have ignited the Big Bang. Now pause for a moment. If the reality we know is only the surface of a vibrating brain, then what lies beneath that surface? Are we shadows on a higher dimensional canvas, unaware that the true brushstrokes of existence happen elsewhere? This is where the 11th dimension stops being a curiosity of mathematics and becomes a doorway to cosmic imagination. Picture the universe not as a single house, but as a grand mansion with an infinite number of rooms. Each room is sealed off from the others, yet all exist within the same overarching structure. This metaphor is what cosmologists call the multiverse. The 11th dimension provides the scaffolding for such a mansion. Every brain, every folded slice of higher dimensional space, may hold a universe of its own. Some of these universes could mirror ours closely: galaxies, stars, even beings like us. Others might obey alien laws. Universes with no gravity. Universes where time runs backward. Universes where light never formed. If the multiverse exists, then what we call reality is simply the room we happen to occupy. And beyond our door, an endless corridor stretches out, branching into infinities upon infinities. Now consider this unsettling possibility. If every possible version of reality exists somewhere, then another version of you exists in another brain. In that world, you might be making choices you never made here. In another, you may never have been born at all. Are these other selves connected to you in ways we cannot yet measure? Could dreams, déjà vu, or sudden bursts of intuition be faint echoes from your higher dimensional counterparts? The 11th dimension invites such daring questions, even if it withholds clear answers. What makes this both thrilling and terrifying is the suggestion that our universe is not special. We are not the only story, but a single verse in an infinite cosmic poem. So far, we have explored the 11th dimension in the language of physics and mathematics. But there is another frontier we must not ignore: the frontier of consciousness. What if awareness itself is not confined to the brain, but extends into higher dimensions? Some philosophers and neuroscientists suggest that consciousness might be a field, much like gravity or electromagnetism, interacting with the brain but not created by it. If that is true, then perhaps our minds already touch the 11th dimension, subtly, invisibly. When you dream, you may be wandering through folds of reality normally hidden. When you experience déjà vu, perhaps your consciousness briefly overlaps with a parallel version of yourself. In moments of deep meditation or mystical experience, seekers across cultures describe sensations of unity, timelessness, and boundlessness. Could these be glimpses into higher dimensional existence? Ancient traditions often spoke of the soul traveling beyond the physical plane. The Vedas called it the Akasha, the hidden ether where all knowledge resides. Mystics in Egypt, Greece, and the Middle East spoke of the divine realm beyond space and time. Is it possible they were intuitively touching the same truths physics now describes in symbols and equations?
And here we are, caught in the middle, beings of flesh and neuron, yet haunted by the sense that our true home is wider, vaster, more infinite than the world we see. The question, then, is not just whether the 11th dimension exists out there, it is whether a part of us already belongs to it. If extra dimensions are folded into the fabric of reality, how might we ever notice them? It's a question that turns speculation into experiment, poetry into methodology. Scientists have devised clever, sometimes startlingly simple ways to look for traces of dimensions beyond our perception. One approach is to look for missing energy. In particle colliders like the Large Hadron Collider, protons slam together at unimaginable speeds, producing showers of particles. If some of the energy suddenly appears to vanish, one possibility is that it escaped into extra dimensions. It's as if you were watching a stage play and noticed a prop disappear through a seam in the backdrop, a hint that the set has layers you cannot see.
Another strategy is to measure gravity at very small distances. Gravity is the weakest of the fundamental forces, but if extra dimensions exist and are curled up at tiny scales, they could slightly strengthen gravity at those scales. Scientists use exquisitely sensitive instruments, tiny torsion balances, microcantilevers, to probe gravity down to sub-millimeter ranges. If gravity behaves unexpectedly, that could be a whisper from the 11th dimension. Astrophysical observations offer other routes. The cosmos is a vast laboratory. Gravitational waves, ripples in spacetime produced by colliding black holes and neutron stars, travel across the universe and carry information about spacetime itself. If extra dimensions exist, they might alter the way these ripples propagate, leaving subtle fingerprints in the waves we detect. Finally, cosmology, the study of the universe's birth and large-scale structure, provides clues. The early universe's behavior depends sensitively on the shape of spacetime. If extra dimensions influence the Big Bang or inflation, their imprint might still be visible in the cosmic microwave background, that faint afterglow of the universe's infancy. None of these methods offers a smoking gun yet. The data so far are conservative, often inconclusive. But the search itself is beautiful. It is the scientific method at its most audacious, a careful, patient peeking under the cosmic rug to see what might scuttle away. And the deeper moral here is instructive. Being unseen doesn't mean being impossible to find. The 11th dimension, if it is real, may be subtle, but it is not necessarily forever hidden. We have the tools and the curiosity to chase its trace. Suppose for a moment that higher dimensions are real and that fragments of us, or versions of us, inhabit them. Beyond the scientific intrigue, such a revelation would ripple through how we understand ourselves, our ethics, and our meaning. First, consider responsibility. If our actions resonate beyond the visible, touching unseen layers of reality or parallel selves, then the moral weight of choices grows dramatically. It is easy to think, my choices only affect me. But if your decisions are threads in a multidimensional tapestry affecting other rooms in the mansion of existence, the scale of responsibility expands dramatically. We become caretakers not just of our immediate space, but of the wider architecture of being. Next, consider identity. Many spiritual traditions have long suggested that the self is more than the body, that there is a continuity beyond birth and death. Science might one day provide language to express similar notions, a continuity of information or a pattern of consciousness that can exist in different dimensional contexts. Such a view would not reduce the uniqueness of the person you are, rather it would situate your uniqueness within a broader chorus. Then there is fear. Encounters with the unknown often provoke anxiety. The idea that we might be observed by higher dimensional agents or that parts of us are mirrored elsewhere can be unsettling. Yet wonder and fear often share the same root, the realization that the cosmos is larger and stranger than our comfortable narratives allowed. Finally, there is liberation. If existence is not restricted to the visible, then the boundaries that define the possible are loosened. This can be intensely freeing. Your life becomes less of a closed story and more like a verse in an endless poem. The 11th dimension, then, is not an escape from responsibility, nor merely a metaphysical curiosity. It is an invitation to expand the scale of compassion, humility, and curiosity. Human beings think in stories. To grasp the implications of the 11th dimension, let us tell small tales, thought experiments that stretch the imagination and reveal hidden insights. Story 1. The Librarian and the Hidden Shelf. A librarian discovers an invisible shelf that holds countless books. To reach them, she must tilt the library in a way her patrons cannot detect. The books contain lives she has never lived. Each time she borrows one, she gains a subtle memory of another existence. At first she is overwhelmed. Then she learns to use these memories to become a kinder librarian. The moral? Hidden knowledge can be disorienting, but it can also deepen empathy. Story 2. The mirror city. Imagine a city of mirrors where each reflection is not merely a reverse image, but a window into a parallel street. Walk long enough, and you may bump into your reflection, who is older, different, and wise. You speak, and the other you offers a single piece of advice. The encounter is brief, but life-changing. The mirror city suggests that brief overlaps between dimensions could provide guidance, like whispers from alternate selves. Story 3. The folding map. A cartographer folds a map and discovers that places align differently depending on the fold. Two distant cities touch when the paper is creased, suggesting shortcuts invisible on the flat map. In our world, compactified dimensions might create shortcuts through space-time, wormholes, or shortcuts for information, altering what we think of as distance. The lesson? Geometry shapes possibility. These stories are not evidence, they're tools, playful, speculative devices that let us imagine the consequences of higher dimensions. They remind us that the 11th dimension is not just a theorem on the blackboard, but it is a lens for reimagining possibility, ethics, and wonder.
What if consciousness itself is not confined to the 3 dimensions we move in, nor the 4th of time we flow through? Some thinkers suggest that the mind is a higher dimensional phenomenon, and what we experience as thought is merely its shadow in our brains. Imagine consciousness as a vast, many-colored sculpture. We, bound to our 3-dimensional slice of reality, see only the thin shadows it casts on the wall. Dreams, intuition, déjà vu, these may be faint glimpses of its fuller structure. In this view, the 11th dimension is not just a playground for physics, but the hidden stage where awareness itself arises. Neuroscientists, too, sometimes borrow the language of dimensions. The patterns of brain activity are mapped in what they call state spaces, where complex emotions or memories correspond to intricate shapes. The brain is not just firing neurons. It is folding, stretching, and traversing landscapes of possibility. Could these landscapes be connected to higher dimensions that mathematics has long hinted at? Here lies a profound possibility, that your mind is bigger than your skull, not metaphorically but literally, an echo of a higher dimensional architecture spilling into your everyday thoughts. What happens when we die? Science, cautious and empirical, often avoids the question. But when higher dimensions enter the conversation, the silence begins to crack. In string theory's vast mathematical playground, information is never truly lost. Black holes, once thought to be cosmic erasers, may instead encode what they swallow on their horizons. If reality itself preserves information across dimensions, what of us? Beings made of patterns, memories, and energy. One possibility is continuity, that consciousness as a higher dimensional pattern cannot be fully destroyed by the cessation of the body. Death, then, may be a boundary crossing, like stepping out of a room without realizing there are other rooms beyond. Many spiritual traditions echo this. The Egyptian duat, the Hindu and Buddhist cycles of rebirth, the Christian vision of eternity. Perhaps these were symbolic gestures toward a truth science is only now learning to articulate, that existence is not bounded by 3 spatial dimensions and 1 temporal one, but instead weaves itself across unseen corridors. In this light, death may not be an end, but a migration into other folds of reality, the continuation of your thread into another pattern of the cosmic tapestry. Let us widen the lens again. The 11th dimension is not only about mystery or mortality, it is also about possibility. In speculative physics, higher dimensions provide the scaffolding for ideas like wormholes, shortcuts that connect distant parts of space. If such structures are real, interstellar travel need not take centuries. A fold in the cosmic map might make the journey instantaneous. Higher dimensions may also hide exotic forms of matter and energy, unseen but influencing our universe.
Dark matter and dark energy, the invisible actors that compose 95% of the cosmos, might be fingerprints of dimensional neighbors pressing against the fabric of our space. Even the playful notion of parallel selves arises here. If reality is a multidimensional sheet, each fold might carry variations of you, some familiar, some profoundly strange. To think of the 11th dimension is to entertain the possibility that we are part of a vast cosmic playground, a mansion with rooms we have not yet opened, where adventure awaits. The thrill is not only in the science, but in the imagination it fuels. Higher dimensions whisper that the universe is not static, not limited, but endlessly open to discovery. And in that openness lies wonder, hope, and an invitation to keep exploring. String theory describes the universe not as particles, but as vibrating strings, imaginably tiny filaments resonating in higher dimensional space. Each vibration gives rise to a different particle, just as the strings of a violin produce different notes depending on how they are played. If this is true, then the universe is not a machine, but a symphony. What we call matter is music. What we call energy is rhythm. And the hidden dimensions are the silent concert hall in which the performance takes place. The 11th dimension would then be the full stage, the grand architecture where all the melodies of existence can coexist. We, as three-dimensional listeners, hear only faint fragments of the orchestra. Our senses tune to a narrow band, like someone hearing only the cellos while missing the violins, drums, and choirs that surround them. Yet, even in our limited perception, the echoes of this hidden music stir us. When you feel awe under a starry sky, when you sense harmony in the unfolding of life, perhaps you are brushing against the greater resonance of existence, a resonance rooted in dimensions beyond your view. Time, as Einstein revealed, is woven into space to form spacetime. But what if time itself is not a single line, but a surface, or even a volume embedded in higher dimensions? In that case, your past and your future may not vanish or remain unborn. They may simply occupy different corridors of the same higher dimensional mansion. Memory, then, could be more than neurons firing in the brain. It could be your consciousness leaning slightly into another dimensional corridor, touching what was. Déjà vu, those fleeting moments of uncanny familiarity, might be slips into parallel time streams, not errors of memory, but glimpses through seams in the dimensional fabric. Likewise, intuition, the sudden knowing of something before it unfolds, could be the mind's higher dimensional aspect peeking a little way down the hall of time. If so, then free will itself becomes a profound mystery. Are we authors of our story or explorers in a pre-written corridor? Perhaps both. Perhaps the act of choosing is itself the folding of time's page, creating a new path in a higher dimensional atlas. Long before physicists spoke of hidden dimensions, mystics and poets hinted at realities beyond the visible. The Sufis sang of hidden veils between worlds. Hindu philosophy described layers of existence, lokas and realms stacked like floors in a cosmic mansion. The Kabbalists spoke of sephirot, unseen channels of divine flow. These traditions, though symbolic, share a striking similarity with the scientific idea of higher dimensions. They all suggest that reality is more layered, more mysterious than our senses reveal. When Rumi writes, "You are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop," he is describing in poetic form what physics hints at mathematically, that every part of us may contain patterns of the whole folded into dimensions unseen. The 11th dimension, then, is not only a topic for blackboards and equations. It is a meeting point where science and mysticism nod to each other across centuries, both saying, there is more here than meets the eye. Picture reality as a vast woven fabric. Each thread is a timeline, each color a dimension, each knot a moment where paths intersect. What we see, our three-dimensional lives moving forward in time, is like gazing at the tapestry from one angle. We see patterns, but not the full design. The 11th dimension invites us to imagine standing back from the tapestry. Suddenly, connections emerge. Events that seemed isolated reveal themselves as part of a grand motif. The separation between galaxies, between you and me, even between life and death, may be less rigid than it appears. Just as the warp and weft give strength to cloth, hidden dimensions may give coherence to the cosmos. They bind particles into atoms, atoms into stars, stars into galaxies, and galaxies into the unfolding structure of space itself. We are not isolated threads. We are part of a pattern whose full beauty lies beyond our current sight. Why, if the 11th dimension exists, do we not see it? The answer may lie in how perception itself works. Our senses evolved for survival, not for cosmic truth. Eyes detect only a narrow slice of the electromagnetic spectrum, ears only a limited range of vibrations. What we call reality is already a filtered version of the full picture. Higher dimensions may simply fall outside our evolutionary filter. Imagine flat creatures living on a sheet of paper. They see forward, backward, left, and right, but never up or down. If a sphere passes through their world, they only see a circle that changes size as it cuts through the sheet. So it is with us. Higher dimensional structures may pass through our space, leaving only fleeting shadows, strange phenomena we cannot explain. Perhaps dark matter, déjà vu, or even the profound mystery of consciousness are such shadows. We study them as anomalies, but they may be glimpses of the infinite, the unseen architecture brushing against the edges of perception. If the 11th dimension is real, then what is our place within it? Are we prisoners of a three-dimensional cage, or pioneers meant to reach beyond it? History suggests the latter. Each era of humanity has expanded its horizon. Once we thought Earth was the whole universe. Then we discovered planets, galaxies, clusters, and the expanding cosmos. Each time, the map grew larger, and we grew with it. The 11th dimension may be the next horizon. Whether through mathematics, machines, or meditation, humanity is inching closer to glimpsing the hidden architecture. To explore it is not merely curiosity, it is destiny. For to be human is to wander, to question, to press against the walls of the possible until they yield. And here lies a humbling thought. Maybe the 11th dimension is not something out there waiting to be found, but something already within us, woven into every heartbeat, every dream, every spark of thought. To explore it, then, is not just science, it is self-discovery. If the 11th dimension is real, then the civilizations that learn to harness it will possess technologies indistinguishable from magic. Imagine devices that fold space, creating instantaneous travel between distant stars. Wormholes may not be mere science fiction, but engineered corridors through higher dimensions. Energy, too, could be drawn from dimensional folds, tapping into reservoirs beyond the limits of matter and fusion. Quantum computers, the first fragile steps into this territory, already hint at multidimensional logic, qubits existing in superpositions that echo higher dimensional patterns. One can only imagine what machines of the 11th dimension would achieve. Simulators of entire universes, or tools that shape reality, not by force, but by resonance. For us, such technology remains a dream, but every dream begins with a whisper of possibility. The very act of asking, "What if?" sets the gears of invention turning. If we struggle to perceive extra dimensions, what if other forms of intelligence do not? Advanced civilizations may have evolved senses attuned to higher dimensional structures. To them, our three-dimensional world might seem as limited as a shadow on a wall. Perhaps they move freely through dimensions we cannot access, not as ghosts, but as beings adapted to a broader environment. Their architecture, their communication, their very notion of existence could be based on principles we barely grasp. This also reframes the search for extraterrestrial life. We scan the skies for radio waves, for biosignatures on exoplanets, for signals that mimic our own technology. But what if their presence is already here, simply layered into dimensions we do not yet perceive? In this sense, the Fermi paradox, the puzzle of why we see no evidence of advanced life, may not mean we are alone, it may mean we are blind.
Beyond science and speculation, the idea of the 11th dimension holds a deeply human resonance. It invites us to expand not only our maps of the cosmos, but our maps of the self. To awaken to higher dimensions is to realize that life is not confined to the visible, the measurable, the material. It is to recognize that you are more than your body, more than your biography, more than your fears. You are a multidimensional being resonating across corridors of existence you cannot yet name. This realization has always been the essence of spiritual awakening. Mystics who spoke of enlightenment, transcendence, union with the divine. Perhaps they were intuiting the very same reality physicists now pursue with equations. The 11th dimension, then, is not only a topic for laboratories, but for the heart. It whispers, you are vast. You are connected. You are more than you believe yourself to be. Every culture has a creation story. Some speak of a cosmic egg, others of a divine word, primordial ocean, or a dance of gods. What unites them is the sense that the visible universe sprang from a hidden source, something beyond ordinary perception. Modern physics, too, has its creation myths. The Big Bang describes a universe exploding into being from an initial singularity. But what lay before, or beyond? String theory and M-theory suggest that our universe may be one bubble among many, emerging from collisions or vibrations within higher dimensional space. In Hindu mythology, Vishnu dreams the universe into being, each cycle emerging from his slumber. In Norse myth, the void Gimin gap gives birth to worlds. These tales, though symbolic, eerily echo the scientific idea of hidden dimensions unfolding reality. Perhaps creation itself is not a single event, but a perpetual blossoming from the higher dimensional soil of existence. The 11th dimension, then, is not just where we exist without knowing, it is where creation continually begins. If the universe was born from higher dimensions, might it return there? Cosmologists debate the ultimate fate of everything. Will a cosmos expand forever into cold emptiness, a heat death of silence? Will it reverse in a big crunch, collapsing into fire? Or will it tear itself apart in a big rip, space itself unraveling? But if higher dimensions underlie the fabric, perhaps none of these is the final word. Just as waves rise and fall on an endless ocean, universes may be born and die as pulses in the larger body of the 11th dimension. Ours may be one breath in an infinite cycle. And perhaps when this universe fades, the information it contained, the stories of stars and of you, is not lost, but folded back into the higher dimensional archive, waiting to be reborn in another form. Destiny, then, is not annihilation, but transformation, an eternal rhythm of emergence and return. At last, let us pause and look inward. Beyond physics, beyond cosmology, beyond speculation, what does the 11th dimension mean for the human heart? It is a metaphor for mystery, a reminder that no matter how much we know, the unknown is vaster. It is an antidote to arrogance, whispering, you are small, but also woven into something infinite. It is also a metaphor for potential. To live with awareness of the unseen is to live with humility and wonder. Every act becomes richer, every relationship deeper, every question more alive when you realize you are participating in a story far larger than yourself. The unseen is not only out there, it is already here, woven into your very being. Science asks how the universe works. Spirituality asks why. For centuries they stood apart, often in tension, but the idea of higher dimensions acts as a bridge. Physicists speak of vibrating strings and hidden geometries. Mystics speak of unseen realms and hidden truths. Both point, in different languages, to realities beyond direct perception. Neither is complete, yet together they offer a fuller map of being. The 11th dimension becomes the meeting ground.
It tells the scientist, reality is deeper than equations can yet grasp. It tells the mystic, your visions may hold patterns the universe itself encodes. And it tells us, the wanderers in between, remain open, for truth wears many faces. What does it mean, practically, to live with awareness of the 11th dimension? It means carrying humility, knowing that what you see is not all there is. It means cultivating wonder, remembering that life is part of a cosmic mystery that outstrips comprehension. And it means living responsibly. If our existence ripples into hidden layers, then our choices matter in ways we cannot yet measure. To live with the unseen is to live poetically, even in ordinary days. The morning light on your face, the laughter of a friend, the silence between thoughts. All of these may be intersections of dimensions where the infinite brushes against the finite. The unseen is not only out there, it is already here, woven into your very being.
We began with a question. What is the 11th dimension, and do we exist within it without knowing? Along the way, we touch the strings of physics, the corridors of time, the whispers of mystics, and the vast symphony of the cosmos. And though we have not solved the mystery, we have learned something more precious, that the mystery itself is alive, and it is calling us to wonder. The 11th dimension may be real. It may be mathematical scaffolding or spiritual metaphor, or both. But whatever it is, it invites us to live differently, with awe, with curiosity, and with reverence for the hidden beauty of existence. So, the next time you look at the night sky, remember, you are not merely gazing outward, but perhaps inward as well, into dimensions folded within you. You are not only a creature of time and space, but a note in the music of higher realms. And though you exist without fully knowing it, the knowing has already begun.